I'll dress up all nice.
Yeah. Yeah, we do balance with the age.
Hey guys. Hey, that's not Sydney. Oh, has you tried to now?
Later.
He's not good. And he got a surgery on Thursday. Oh, right. Yeah, that's like, so he's not able to move. So yeah, he tore, I think, his meniscus. So he tore his meniscus 8 months ago. No. He got a surgery to fix it. Yeah. So no one's not gonna be able to move around for some.
That's so hard though. It's at least 30 on the meniscus or it's pretty significant.
He said it's not that bad. That's what he said.
Really, that's if your knees tagging.
That's what I thought.
And it's finite.
I think over time it's gonna get better.
Yeah, no, in like 10 years you can suffer.
Yeah.
It's been taking so much glucose.
Also, you know what I can use your help for whenever you have a free time? So this laptop, I went through 3 different mice all at the same time. The scroll wheel never works. It always goes like, if I scroll down, I go down, up, down, up, down. And
Might be something to do with device charging.
I tried. The drivers, I looked up a million different drivers, I reinstalled a bunch. I even, redid my laptop and then reinstalled the driver. And, man, nothing. Yes. What's Alien? Yeah, right. Windows 11, yeah.
It's Alien really for their phone special.
But I look.
You can make a registry thing.
Okay.
So, after class, obviously, you're always just go to the registry and should see the options.
Yeah.
Because that's like the last one. If you already got the hardware and drivers all well figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're seeing multiple mouses all have the same issue, then it's not an hardware issue.
Yeah, I would assume it's a driver issue.
Well, so all these all the drivers. So if this one outside the other options registry. So. You ever to get a keyboard for like a personal desktop? That user is a mess.
Yeah. Do they click that? I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty quiet.
Well, they're still like they're more about responsiveness. They're not these are cherry lines.
Just leave us.
All right, guys, I'm going to start the WebEx now. Basically, what we are going to do is, before we start the RMAN, we'll see how the archive logs are being generated.
Oh, wow. By the way, I don't know if you've been asked this question before, but one of the things that I actually had been finding weird was when I was transferring, when I was exporting from NY to the AFL server, it happened without an issue at all. But when I was exporting between Oracle environments, so I was on the FL server and I was trying to transfer something from Batch 51 and export it to the server that I've brought up. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it is an issue with the TNS.RF file or something.
Okay, so your server is on AWS, Amazon?
Oh, no, the server that I brought up,
You mean your database that you brought?
Sorry,
Okay.
the database that I brought up on like the FL server. When I tried to export the Scott schema to that, it wasn't working. So then I ended up basically finding it in the Oracle home file, and because the Scott schema is just a default file for the testing and teaching, right?
Okay.
So I found it in the Oracle and home file, but I was just wondering if there was any specific issues that you could see as to why.
Let's see if we can do that really quick. So from New York to Florida?
No, from Florida, Batch 51 to Florida, my server.
His database.
Your database.
Up to my database, sorry.
What is your database name?
SYDB.
SYDB like this?
No, sorry, SYDB, just DB. So like 4 letters.
Okay, so
Right.
SYDB,
B. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So your database is probably down, so I'm going to start it up.
So is there like something that automatically takes it off?
No, we do that
Okay,
because,
takes some resources.
yeah,
Sorry.
so if I see that the database is not in use, then we take that offline, basically shut them down, right?
Okay.
So it looks like it's not coming up.
That's, I mean, it was working prior, like
Yeah,
when I was
so-
working with it.
Let's see. Does that file exist? No. So somebody, oh, is this batch 51? Why is your database, which is SYDB, writing to batch 51? Something is odd. So maybe what I can do is temporarily.
Somebody mentioned about missing the control files in a few days ago.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, so let's, 1 second. So here, I'm gonna see if I can take this offline.
oh
Now,
wait, I thought we were batch 51.
yeah, but
But that's a
you
different
are,
Your database is writing to that.
here, this is batch 51, right?
Oh,
You shouldn't be writing to.
So what I'm saying is, when
A
you
different
created your
database.
database, you should have used the SYDB
Instead of
Yes.
batch 51.
instead of this. Do you see this directory?
yeah,
This directory should be U14 Aura Data SYDB.
I do, I think have a folder like that in there. I'm
So,
actually not
but
sure.
however, whichever file that it is writing to, which is called file1.dbf, do you know which table space this file belongs to?
File one, which table space?
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely for SYDB.
SYDB is a database.
Well, I mean, sorry, I think I only have a singular table space, which is the Scott scheme on it.
Okay. So something you did not do correctly, but let's see if I can take that data file offline.
I have another question after one.
1 second.
Something similar.
Yeah, so data file offline, and then there is data file 8. So there is something wrong with here. If I cd U14 Aura Data, SYDB. These, so you fine, right? But I think you have created one more data, either one table space or more table spaces.
Yeah, I think,
Those table spaces data files should have been here, not in the other directory, right? So this is correct. But some of your data files actually landed into batch 51's directory.
oh, I see. So if I were just, could I just move them over, like,
Those files does not exist, how are we gonna move?
oh, sorry, I meant like the files that seem to be in batch 51 for whatever reason.
So what okay, so select the data file.
See what I did wrong though. That's probably why that's.
So one is in recovery state, and then you have data file. So all these, they do not exist, right? So I don't know which table space it belongs to, but we can probably find that out. So I think you created a table space with these data files, and somehow these data files have made, or at least the pointer is pointing to the wrong directory. But these files should still exist, so it looks like somebody has actually manually deleted this. So look at this, file 1, file 2, file 3. So none of these files.
Be there, so that's.
Yeah. So if I do ls minus ltr any of these files, none of these files exist. So we probably have to, I will have to take each of the data file offline.
So they've been deleted on our level, but logically you still see.
Yeah. So I have the 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11. Now, if I run this same query one more time, all these files needs recovery. What that means is I can still bring up the database now if I say alter database open. It's too early because I was going to cover all this in our RMAN, but at this point I can recover this database. But we will have to drop this table space now.
Yeah.
Because it is, first of all, the files do not exist. So whatever you have done, I'm not sure. First of all, do you recall calling the files file 1, file 2, file 3, file? You do?
So there was, I was following one of the documents on putting up the server, and there was a step that actually.
So right now the database is open, but now if I say select name from $, table space. So your table spaces, these are the 2 table spaces. I think this should be dropped. Alter
TBS, that was part of the homework.
table space, table space. So here if we say select describe db underscore data underscore files, right? So now I have the file name, file ID. So select file ID, file name, and table space name. And then we can say bytes, 1024, 1024 as size MB. I hope you guys can go back and watch this, what we did, because this is one of the scenario that you can actually talk in interview. They may say, give me an example of a recovery that you have done. So think about this, what just happened, and how what we are doing to perform a recovery. Although this is not a complete recovery, there is a difference. This is a very famous interview question. What is the difference between a complete recovery versus incomplete recovery? We will talk more on that later on, but remember this scenario. So
this is incomplete recovery.
yeah, definitely.
We need,
Yeah, because we don't know where those files are, right? So if we had a full backup, which we have not, because I have not shown you,
Right.
if we would have a full backup, we could have recovered this, which I'm going to show you today. If we have a full backup through RMAN and your data files, somebody removed them from the operating system, is there a way we can restore and recover it? I will show you that.
Sure.
Order by the file ID. DBA. Okay, see how it is not able to calculate all this?
Right.
Yeah. So this is all because you have the Kent TBS. Now that also made me worried because earlier when we looked into the database, so here is KentTBS, right? KentTBS, all the data files, if you start looking at here, it is not able to calculate. So that means it cannot find it.
I think it also was like a really large file because it was a collection of all the DBA objects, which I tried to do it from specifically my server, but it's still like managed to pull DBA objects throughout the server. So I imagine it was deleted for a good reason.
I mean, we have a lot of space. I'm going to show you on our U14. I think we have a lot of space. The other worry is temp DBS. Oh, this is a temporary table space.
Yeah, it was part of the homework assignment to make it temporary.
So now at this point, I think the best idea is to, I mean, in this case, in production, you cannot do this, right? Because we have to restore and hopefully we have a backup. But here, I'm simply going to drop this alter. What is that? Drop table space name, drop table space in TBS, including contents, content and data files. Contents. But I think it may not like it because it cannot find the data files. Do you remember maybe dropping some of the files outside of the database?
No.
Use the rm command. Do you remember?
The only time I used RM was initially when I was getting the server up. There was a few times where it failed. So what I did was
Okay, so let's see if we can find something in the history. Rep rm.
my history.
No, this is the Oracle history. So we can, I can only go back.
Yeah.
So batch 51. So let's see, correct? Batch. Yeah, I don't see that from the history, but you know, this is a shared environment, right? So it could, I mean, it only keeps 1,000, so it could have been gone by from here. But if I use last, what is your username?
Oh, SYED underscore A51. It's capital S, I think.
That's okay, SYED.
Underscore A51.
Last. Hold on a second. This is fine. We cannot find the history, but at this point, I think we should be able to drop.
Just a table space alone.
We already dropped the table space. Now we should be able to simply find DB, and here we should be able to shut down properly and start up properly. Now you can create a new table space, okay? And then you can export or import whatever you want to do.
The question, why his database was pointing to different directory, different.
Yeah, that is unknown. Maybe he had made a mistake. When you are copy
I
pasting,
might have misinterpreted the document on how to do it, and in reality, I was supposed to probably create a folder specifically for my.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
Sorry, so maybe it's a good practice if we create a new schema or new table table space, maybe good practice, we check the OS level of directory, check those files.
Oh, yeah, this is something that, this is a recipe of getting fired, basically. So, if this would have been a production machine, you're fired already. But if this is a non-prod, so in fact, all the DBAs, what they do is, whatever that they're doing, they will do that in a dev environment first. Even if they have made a mistake, you can perform few things like this and bring it up. It is not affecting the actual business. But if it is, and then you write down all the steps, and then finally, when you have the downtime, then you execute all those. Because by then, everything has been approved. You have already checked and everything.
And consistent backups as well, I imagine.
Yeah, so every database will have a backup as well.
Mohit, can I ask one question? So I had something similar. I had a problem importing the stat schema, but when I say I just couldn't understand, it was essentially like you have to unlock it. Basically, every time I went into SQL, I would go into SQL Plus, and then I would alter user root identified by ABC123, alter user stat account unlock. And then when I checked to see if Scott was there, it wasn't there. Then if I exit out and get back in, it's there, but none of the data's in there. None of the tables are in there. And I just kept doing
Okay, first of all, the Spot schema was very famous in any of the previous versions. In fact, all the versions so far. But it was already part of the new database installation up to 9i or 10g. Okay? So any database installation after that, the Spot schema by default does not come.
Okay.
By default. So let's say if you had created a database, then you are expecting the Spot to be there. No, it is not going to be there.
But actually, so what happened was, I was saying about the export import situation, where I couldn't get into my Oracle environment or my database that was up on your server. I ended up actually finding the Scott schema itself in the Oracle 19 home file, and I was actually able to get it from there.
Yeah. So it is part of the scripts that Oracle provides, but it is not already loaded in the database. That's what I'm saying. So it is part of your Oracle home / wherever all the scripts are. So if you run that script, it will create the Spot schema. There is one other script which will create the HR schema. So there are scripts there, but earlier versions like 8i, 9i, 10g, the Spot schema. So when you install it, it was already there. You don't have to run a separate script. Okay. So I don't know if that played a role. And if you said when I checked it, it was not there. When I log in, it was there. So I think it is some manual human error. So you might have been in a different database, or you may have looked into Spot schema with all the small cases instead of capital cases. Things like those could have happened because magically it cannot appear.
But it was like if I type in the command to see the stat schema, I can see it. And then as soon as I try to unlock or if I try to look into the stat schema to see if the tables were there, then the tables weren't there. Then when I try to look to see if the stat schema existed, it didn't exist. So then I had to exit out, come back in. Now it exists again. And then when I look into to see if the tables weren't there.
Try to recreate the same scenario with a new database.
Okay.
You can maybe create a new database and then see if you can do the same thing again.
Okay.
Question, didn't we last class, we practiced the data pump when we exported Scott schema to Tom was the other one? To do the schema,
yeah,
right? Then
yes,
we
we
did
did.
DDL as well,
Yes.
right? So I believe it was there, maybe unless someone dropped this Scott schema.
I don't know.
Now, was that in your own
That was in
personal
mine.
database?
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone would be playing with this database.
Oh, so maybe he never had the Scott schema in his database.
No, because this was right when I was bringing it up. Right when I brought up the database, a part of the notes that Mohit has, it says to verify if you have the stat schema. If you don't, go to this site.
Right.
So then I did that whole thing. Everything looked great, but then when I checked to see if the tables imported, the tables weren't there. So then as soon as I
So
saw.
it was just an empty schema with
It was an
nothing.
empty schema, but then after I checked to see if the tables are there, if I check to see if I have the scout schema, that doesn't exist. But it's weird that it says that it exists, it shows me it. But once I check to see if the tables are there, now, if I check to see if the schema, it's not there.
Which dictionary that you used to check?
I don't remember.
Was that DB_tables?
DB underscore tables, yeah.
Okay, now do you think that has it or you?
I couldn't find my database after that. When I had messaged you, I couldn't find it. Then when you said it's probably down, it
What
doesn't.
is your name of your database?
It's one of two things. It's either NICKDB or NICKSDB.
Why don't you try export Scott's
Okay,
schema
so
from
now
batch
you have
51?
name
That's
SDB here that I see. So let's see if we can bring this up.
It has to be human error now, because I couldn't type in NICKSDB, it would say what's the path. It wouldn't just go in.
It's all caps, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons that I looked into the Aura tab first. See how I did the Aura tab and I said -I to make it
Ignore
insensitive.
the.
And then that's how I know the exact name.
Okay, got it.
So it looks like your database is up. So let's say select username, count status from DB_users, where username lie as percentage. All. Okay, so Scott is open here. So now select
Everything from get.
table name from DB_tables where owner equal to Scott. No rows. So you have an empty schema, no tables. So I think you just created the schema, but you have not imported or your import didn't work. That's why you don't have any schema.
But I did it a bunch of times, and then if you get, or try to.
Okay, let's find out where you imported it. So one of the table name is called EMP, right?
Yes,
Let's see who are the owners of all EMP. So select owner, table name from DB_tables, where table name equal to EMP. No.
no,
So do you think you might have imported in some other database?
possible.
It could be possible. Right? So it might have been imported or it have failed because if the table already exists, it could have failed as well.
Okay.
Right? So this could be a good practice for you to recreate a database, or you don't even have to recreate now. I'm going to simply drop the schema now. So drop user Scott cascade. So see if you can export everything from Scott schema from batch 51 database and then see if you can import it here. And it could be fairly simple. And then just to what we can do is we should do this really quick. So here I will run the same schema or same object, and I see these are the bunch of tables that I have. And if I use the DBA directories, so describe DB_directories, select directory name, directory path from DB_directories. So here so see if we can find your directory here. Oops, what happened? So here, do you find your directory here somewhere?
Nick? EP?
Where? Here? Okay.
Yeah.
So, does this directory exist? That's the first thing that we want to find out. Okay, yes. And then do we already have Scott schema here? Yes, it looks like we already have it, so we may not need a new Scott schema. So here I will say cat. Oh, we have to go into this directory first. So cd to this, and then so it looks like you have this. Now I'm going to use your import log and find out what exactly it had. And then we'll say more. So it is doing this import, and then you actually change it to from Scott to Scott name.
Mm.
Okay. Now, which database we don't know. You might have imported this in some other database, maybe in the same database. No errors. So here I will see if we have in this name Scott, right? Because you change
Scott
it
underscore name.
to name. So here, what we can do is select username, created, count status, from db underscore users with username like or percentage. Yeah. See how you created, you imported in the same database. You didn't import it into your database.
Okay.
So if I do select name from our database, we are in batch 50. So instead of importing into your own database, you actually ended up with this database.
Okay.
That's the reason you were not able to find anything on this site. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you can try, and these are all the typos. These are all the things that we are doing. So many things, especially if you are a trainee, right? So this can happen, but we go back and we fix these things.
Maybe, is it like a good idea to have all the steps on a notepad? Like,
What I usually do is, and this actually happened to me in the past, where I ended up shutting down the production machine during the business hours. That was a big. That is a big thing in the database world. So after that, what I started doing is I started coloring my putties. All the production putties, I have a different color. So, and all the non-prod, I have a different color. So dev has, let's say, background dark, background green. Stage has the dark blue. Production has the dark red, or something like that. That will tell me immediately what is going on.
So the background of the pretty, the background is color, refers to certain protected.
And then that can easily be done. So here, for example, I don't know, I mean, in Putty also you can do it.
The background of the tab.
See how you have different colors in here. And I thought I had one with, for a production, but maybe, so. I did. And then you can change the background, right? So for example, if this is a production, maybe for normal color, I may use something lighter or something. Okay. Yeah, something. Sorry? Yeah. Go ahead, please.
I sent you something on WhatsApp. That's what I get when I try to get into my database. It's on the group.
Yeah. Put Nick DB. Nick DB is not there.
Well, no, I put Nix DB because I put Nix DB with the time before that.
But your database is not Nick DB, right?
I thought it was NICKS DB, all caps.
Yeah, but in the screen that you have sent me, it is Nick DB. You have to do this okay, all right, I see. Nick's DB. CKSDB. Yeah, so what happens is if you try to, and I have seen this before. So for example, if I say .aura.env, right? And I type something in here. Now, if I do this, it will ask me, and let's say if I hit enter, it didn't set the Oracle set, but now if I try setting it with the .aura.env, you get this error. Or sometimes it will accept it from the previous settings, but now it is not pointing to look into the Aura tab.
Okay.
So in that case, the best thing would be to exit out of Oracle and then come back in Oracle with the correct settings, and then you do the .aura.env. For example, I will exit out from here, and then I will come back. Right, and now I will say aura.env. Nix DB, right? And then I go.
Gotcha. And what was because I've had that as well. What's the issue particularly?
The issue is the Oracle environment was messed. When you give the wrong set, which is not in Aura tab,
Right.
it messes up your Oracle's memory. Right?
Oh.
So now Oracle set is pointing to a database that does not exist. Because that database does not exist, it is pointing to some Oracle base, which it is unknown. It is also changing Oracle home to something that is unknown. So now either you have to manually set Oracle set equal to this, set or export
Okay.
Oracle home or export Oracle base. Instead of that, it is easier for you to just go back and log back in and then use the Aura.env.
Yeah, I logged back in, but I never understood the reason why.
Yeah. Okay, so here, now what is the meaning of redo log? If somebody asks you, so far you know, right? So far you know that redo log, what redo log is, what archive log is, and things like that. So how do you describe redo logs? Yeah.
Record the changes in the database.
Now, are these the committed changes or non-committed changes?
Both of them.
Both, right? When we talked about Golden Gate, we will see that Golden Gate only captures the committed changes. But regular database, it will capture both the committed changes and non-committed changes. So, for example, if I change 1,000 records without performing any commit, are they still found in the redo log? Yes, it is. And then if the redo log is not enough, what it will do is it will keep overwriting each other, but before overwriting, it actually sends it to the archive logs. So let's see if we can look into a database alert log, and while we are generating some changes in our production machine, in our batch 51 database. Okay. So before I do that, I will make sure.
Question. If you don't mind, sorry for interrupting. I'm so curious about how did you hit the tab on your keyboard to come with the alert and restore batch 51?
Yeah.
Because I watch people online, they come with this trick in SQL, just trying to figure out how they can get exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I mentioned this in our Unix class, that you can use the tab to cover it.
Right.
So if there are two files with the same name as alert.log, alert.log1, then it will stop at alert log, and then it will ask if you want to proceed further. So to make things faster, And then a lot of companies, they have some shortcut for alert, right? So for example, in a production environment, you only have one server, one database. You don't have multiple databases. So DBAs, they usually create a shortcut called AL. And then they just type in AL, which alias, and then it will open up the alert log in the tail minus
Does
system.
that happen inside the SQL too? That happened in Unix?
No. SQL has its own different engine. Remember, Linux is based on Bash kernel,
Right.
whereas the SQL is written in C++ language. So it does not always, and SQL is by itself, think of it as itself, it is its own operating system, which is universal to any operating system. So if anything that works in Unix, it may not work in Windows and so on. So they said, no, it is independent. None of the operating system commands will work in here unless you use the exclamation. Okay. So now I'm going to write here. I'll create a table. Create user I don't know. I'm pretty sure I have created this before. By DBC123 grant DBA to MM100. Now, I know we have not talked about this DBA grant before, but either you have the option of logging in as sys, and then you have pretty much all the DBA grants. Or if you are logging in, some companies, they do not want you to log in as sys. They want you to log in as yourself with the DBA privilege. So now you have access to pretty much everything. Okay, so I'm just granting DBA to myself in here.
So that's a role, I think.
That's a role, correct. So this role has some more roles and permissions inside it, built in. So at this time, I will say connect MM100 ABC123. Okay, so show user. Still here, right? Okay. So now I will say create table T1 as select star from DB underscore objects. So DB underscore objects, we have about 50,000 or so. So now it is going to create this table. Now look at the sequence number. We have the 220, right? So what happens here, we have our SGA, we have our buffer pool, and here we have our log, and then here we have our shade pool, right? So all the changes that are blocks in here, they are getting here, change vectors are moving, and then from here, this is all part of the SGA. And then here we have our U15, U16, and U17, right? So all these changes, so right now the change, so for example, it went here, there is a log switch, then this actually moved log writer, is moved here, and then there is a log switch, and then the log writer has moved here. Now all these changes, so this was change number 219, this was change number 220, and while this was on, it actually went up to change number 221. Now the more times that it is switching, the more archives are being generated, right? So now once this is done, after 221, it went back and now this is active. So the more changes that are happening, it is always log group 1, 2, or 3. Group numbers are same, but the sequence numbers keep incrementing. So I'm going to find out how many objects are in here. So count, select, count star from T1. So we have 74 objects, right? I'm going to double this. Insert into T1, select star from T1. So more data is adding, but now since I'm adding inserts is not committed yet. So 222, right now we are at 222. I'm going to double this. Okay, so we are at sequence 223. The more that you are adding, sequence number 224. We are at sequence 226. We will double this. Sequence 228, and it is still writing, writing, and writing. So do you see the relation now? I have not committed yet, but all these changes, even if I perform a rollback now, if I perform a rollback, what is going to happen now? If I use rollback, all these changes, whatever the line numbers that we have, so for example, if I say select count star from T1, remember how they started with 75,000, which was committed. But now all this almost 1.1 million rows are now committed. So if I perform now, where is it going to roll back from?
77.
No. I said the committed transaction, that means if there is a new user, for example, you log in, okay? And then you say, I logged in as sys now, you are not the owner now. So you log in, and then if you say select count star from T1, how many rows do you see?
74.
You only see 75,000 rows, right? The reason for that was because I have not committed it, and all this data is considered as a dirty blocks now. They have not been committed. So now I have the option of either performing a rollback. That's the reason it is not showing you all this 1 million rows, because the owner has not decided. So we are still seeing, so other users will always see as a different. So for example, if I come back here, and if I say I'm going to log in as sys, and if I say select count star from mm100.t1, there you go. I'm not the owner, right? So show user. And sys, here if I type show user, I'm different. Now if I perform a commit, almost immediately, if you run this, now it is open, visible to all the users, all these changes. So the more data that you are writing, the changes are keep coming, right? Now, I'm going to open up one of my document here. If you just type in Moy redo logs. So here, my queries on redo logs. So I'm going to open this up. And one of the things that I want to show you here, now you can look back and all these different things, but one of the things that I want to show you is this one here. So we just type in member, so all member format A15. Here you go. Now, do you see this here? Let's see, these are my redo log members. Now, before we talk about redo log members, we already know what the redo logs are, but we don't know what the redo log members are. So we will do some really quick explanation on that. I'm going to give you an example of two companies, a company called ABC and a company called XYZ. Okay. So a company is ABC, and then the design that they have is they have the SGA. SGA has redo logs that are going to group 1, and then it has the group 2, and it has the group 3. right? And then as you can say that it is always writing to either this one or this one or this one. If this is inactive, if that is active, this is, these are the inactive ones. Now, let's say while this is still running, it has filled up a bunch of these, and at this time, and these are the U15, U16, and then U17. Something happened, and then when I do the df minus h, I see this one and I see this one, and this is active, remember? It is still writing. So these are all full, but this is only halfway full. And something happened, while this is still writing, this disappears. When I do the df, I only see U15, U16, and U17, while it is still in use, something happened. Disk failed, mechanical failure. What do you think will happen to the database now?
So not say the last changes on that, usage.
Obviously, it is not going to save the changes, but all these changes that are being pushed from, so you have the shade pool, you have the block buffer, and then you have the changes. Now these changes, they are trying to get pushed into this that does not exist. So all my transactions that are coming from the outside world, right? This is the listener. So what do you think is going to happen to those transactions? These are my customers here.
Was it in here?
They are all making some changes, they are ordering something from Amazon. And all of a sudden, right, their transaction, they are not able to write anything in here. So what do you think will happen? How is it going to affect these guys? Their system is just hanging now. It is waiting for the transaction to get moved to the next stage. And it is not allowing the next, because it cannot guarantee those changes are here. Forget it if they are going to check out or no. They want to add something into the cart, and it's not even taking that. Now, do you think this is a bad design?
Yeah.
Where one redo lock can crash and everything is gone?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, let's see. There is another company here. This company is called XYZ. What they have seen, so they have the similar design, so they have the SGA. And SGA is writing to the redo locks. But instead of going into the vertical design like this, they went with the horizontal design. What they said is, I'm going to have U15 here, U16 here, and then U17 here. What do you mean? So here I have the group 1. Group 1, I'm going to make 3 copies, and each copy in each of the mount point. So think about this. I don't recall this. So here, what we had was we have redo 1.rdo, redo 2.rdo. Here we have redo 3.rdo, and redo 3 was the one problematic. What we are doing now here is, we are actually, every time there is a log writer that is going to write in here, it is actually going to make a copy of all of these. And we call this group 1. So group 1, member 1, member 2, member 3. Do you see how they are all equal at any given time?
Mm-hmm.
So if any of the disk fails, if U15 fails, I still have a copy of U16 and U17. If U17 fail, I still have copy of U15 and U16. Hence, we have brought in the high availability. So group 2, so once this is full, it will go into the group 2 here. Group 2 also has to. And once it is done with the group 2, then we have the group 3. So at any given time, if there is a log switch that occurs, which is the log writer, right? By default, it is log writer 1. Now you have log writer 2 and log writer 3. One log writer is writing here, log writer is writing here, one log writer is writing here. Does that make sense? So we have, instead of, here we have only log writer 0, which is the default. Here we have multiple channels writing to this. So we are going to call this as redo 1a.rdo. Redo 1b.rdo. Group 1, the member B. Redo 1c. Redo 01 c.rdo. So here we have 2a, 2b, 2c.rdo. Here we have 3a, 3b, 3c.rdo. Does that make sense? So at any given time, here if any of the disk that fails, the system crashed. Users are affected. If one of this disk failed, here remember we have U17 that failed. Now all of a sudden U17 disappeared. Do I still have a copy of everything in here?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is called the redo log members. So obviously here if I start looking into this, let's say this is 1 gigabyte, this is 1 gigabyte, and this is 1 gigabyte. So total space I need is 3 gigabyte. If I have 3 members, obviously the disk space is more now. 3 gigabyte times 3, I have 9 gigabyte. As long as you have the space that you can allocate, I believe that this is the perfect design to avoid any single point of failure.
Are there companies that still?
All the production machines that I know, they always use the redo members. So here I have 1 gig, 1 gig, 1 gig. So group 1 actually end up with 3 gigabyte. Group 2 actually went 3. Group 3, 3 gigabyte. So total I need 9 gigabyte.
Well, this is come about at the expense of the storage, but it's a
Exactly.
very effective way to keep high availability.
Yeah.
And it shows.
And most of the companies, especially the bigger databases, I know one database which is about 240 terabytes in size. And you know how big each of is? It's about 100 gigabytes each. It's a very large database. They do a lot of transactions, and each member is 100 gigs. And they have 10 of these groups. Each member is 100 gigs. So 100, 200, 300 gigs times 10. Almost 3 terabytes just in redo logs. Right? And then sometimes they may have to increase it because they want to have a better performance. So instead of waiting for the log switch, they will add few more new here. For a smaller database, it may not be very, the disk is already there, right? 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabyte. But it comes as a challenge when you have a larger database, and on one server you have multiple databases. If you have 3 of these databases, right? 3 large databases on the same server, and each of them, one is taking about 3 terabytes, the other one is taking 2 terabytes, the other one is taking 1 terabyte. Now, just for the redo logs, you're spending about 6 terabytes of space.
And what about the archive log? Like if the redo is gonna eventually port over to the archive, it's gonna throw all is the archive log even?
Of course, because redo log is only keeping only certain amount of data, right? Everything is archived. So you may have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 3 times 24, right? How much is that? 72. So in one day you have 72 readers, for example, 24 hours. Now imagine if you have, and you want to keep 7 days of archives. So now you have to multiply this by 7. That's the archives. That's how much archives that you should be able to keep. And each archive is 1 gigabyte. Then that means you have 534 gigabytes for 7 days. For 7 days, if you want to keep this much, you have to, 7 days of archives, you need to have this much for one database. Let's say, imagine you have 3 of these databases, then you have to have at least that big for U98.
Not to mention the retention policy, 50 days.
Yeah, retention, this is the retention policy of 7 days. If your company wants to have 14 days or 30 days or 6 months, now you have to design on that.
How does they pay for storage or they get what they want?
Yeah, they have separate storage admins, that's the reason, right?
So your base is right now on the first type of,
No, that's what we are saying here. So if I do this, look at this, group number 3, group number 2, group
Oh,
number
okay.
1. You have, each one has these 3 separate read log members.
okay.
Each of these read log member is 20 megabytes in size. Start looking into this.
So it's concurrently writing to the 3 different accounts.
Sorry?
The log writer is currently writing to, there's 3
Yeah, but
channels.
every time by default there is at least one which is always available, and you can actually look into
Which one?
the Oracle processes. So here, if I do,
So he's running number 2.
so hold on, ES minus EF, grab bash 51, and then out of that, grab log writer. Right? One log writer, no, actually, yeah, one log writer process. But when it is doing its work, then the other will come up and say, hey, you know what, I have to do this.
So when you throw a bunch of TMLs, you'll see the other log writer.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to come back and we will do this. So if you start looking at right now, which of this is current? 20 is current, and these 2 are inactive, right? So I'm going to add more data into this. Insert into user. Okay, so insert into so we are going to double this, right? So we are going to look into what is our current read log. I'm going to actually reduce the size so that we can fit our column.
That an M100 user, you grant it in a DBA role, right? So he has a better permission and privileges versus a normal user, right? This is how he was able to access the objects, DBA
Yes.
underscore objects.
Definitely. Okay, so here, if I start looking into this, why is this not working? That's weird. Anyway. It's not changing, something is not right. Anyway, I'm going to tail minus half. Right now we are at archive block 619. Oh, that's not right. Is it still current? Yeah, still current. $234 is current now. This one becomes active. That means it cannot be dropped because it is still writing somewhere else. And I have 232 here, which is inactive. Now, if I do this, because there are so many changes, these became active. That means I cannot read these 2, or it still needs them. However, the current is at 239. Current is just 242 because there are so many changes that are being written in here. At this time, I cannot drop any of these. Why? Because they are still active. And this is the most current one. Now, is this archived? Oh yeah, these are archived now. Is this archived? No, not yet. Why? Because this is still current, so something is still writing to it. I'm going to try this now. Now, look at these. All these are still active. Why are they active?
Is the Oracle needs them for it?
Oracle still needs them. Now, is there a way we can forcefully make them inactive? Basically saying, hey, archive log, hey, database, put the topmost priority on this and finish whatever you want that is related to the archive. I don't want to wait till the last moment. If I do this, it is still this. Now, let's say I have to do for some performance, but database is a little slow about archives. Is there a way we can force it? Yes, that is alter system checkpoint. Now, when you perform a checkpoint, basically you are saying, hey, do whatever you want. This is like a checkpoint, right? You make sure you write everything into the control file. Nothing is needed here. If anything is, everything is all ready to be restored up to this checkpoint. So now if I do this, they became inactive. Now usually we don't force it, we just let it go, right? Let Oracle do its own work. We don't bother it, but sometimes you may have to force a few things. So we are bringing up, now what is the checkpoint process? Checkpoint process is, this is my redo logs, right? And then this is another redo log here. And then this is another redo log. Every time the redo log, right now this is current. So after 244, it is most likely going to go back in here. And then after this one is filled, it is going to come back in here. After this one is filled, it is going to come back in here. This is how it works, right? But every time this is full, Oracle is actually using a checkpoint process. Every time you perform a switch, and is there a way we can manually perform a switch? Yes, there is. By default, Oracle will take care of it, but is there a way we can manually checkpoint? Yes, we can. So here we can say alter system switch log file. And we are saying, even though you are only half full, I want you to perform a switch log. So here we will say alter system switch log. And then, even though this is all empty space, it will still perform a log switch, and then it will go back to this one.
So then what exactly, once that's full, then it performs a checkpoint and goes to the next one. But you can do alter system switch log.
Switch log file. I think it's switch log file.
Log file, and then even if it's not full, it'll go to the next one.
Yes.
So what exactly are you doing when you do alter system checkpoint?
Checkpoint is we are basically forcing these to become inactive. We are actually asking Oracle, hey, stop everything. I want you to write the details of what you just did into the control file.
Okay.
Why? Because this is important. That every time you restore and recover database, the control files will be looked at, and it will say how many SCN numbers, what are the checkpoint numbers. Basically, it is creating a checkpoint saying that I guarantee you can restore up to this point.
Okay. So every time you switch a log, after a log switch occurs, there will be internally automatic checkpoint with a new SCN, incremental SCN number.
It is right. It is written into the control file.
In that case, also will update the header and the data blocks, right?
Header is the data files.
Data files.
Yes. System has a data file header, right? SysSocs has a data file header. Your user namespace has a data file header, and so on. So here I will look at this now. Right now the current is 244. I'm forcing. I'm not writing anything. I will just type in alter system switch log file. And now if I execute this, 245. And this is active, right? I want, for some reason, I have to perform a maintenance, and I want this active to become inactive. So in that case, I will perform alter system checkpoint. And then if I come back here, it becomes inactive. Why? Because we said everything else is a low priority. This is the topmost priority. I want you to guarantee the restore point up to this point. So we use the checkpoint. If you leave it like this, it may be inactive for next 5-6 minutes because Oracle has other things to do. So Oracle started doing the other things, and this becomes the low priority.
Okay. But if you leave it like this, all of them would be inactive, so then it would be, like you said, if the customers are doing stuff, it would be like buffering for the customers?
It will cause some slowness. This is the reason when the database is busy, this is the reason they will have not just 3 groups, they may have 10 groups now.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Right? So even if this is inactive, the others are taking over now.
Sure, yeah.
By the time they become, if they were active, the new logs are being generated, group 4, group 5, group 6, group 7, group 8, 9, 10, and then it will come back to 1. By the time it come back to 1, it becomes inactive. Right? So sometimes you have to start measuring. If there is a wait event, top wait event, $V wait event, right? It will say log file sync wait. The name of the wait is log file. So if I'm traveling from here to my house, there is a wait at signal light. There is a wait when there are too many traffic. So every wait has a name. Signal light is a wait event. Traffic is a wait event. Accident is a wait event. Reroute is a wait event. All these are wait events in human world. In Oracle world, anytime it is waiting on anything, Oracle identified that as a wait. So there may be interview question. Can you tell me something about or some of the wait events that you have encountered? One of the wait event is log file sync wait. This is log file sync wait. It is not syncing on time. So if you see that, that means your redo log sizing has to be adjusted. Either you have to grow or shrink, or you have to increase the number of groups.
So Mohit, how often do you do the switch, or how often, or the times that you have?
It could be from here to here, it could go in 1 minute. It depends on your DML. From here to here, it could go in one day. On Saturday and Sunday, let's say if you're an HR, right? You are a DB of HR database. Do you think there is any activity on weekend now?
No.
HR? Most likely almost none. So your archive, your changes are just maybe few changes and stuck here for next 2 days. On Monday, every time you come in office, you have a lot of pending things to do. You start changing, hey, the salary here, the address here, all these different things. So for 2 days, it had no activity. Now in next 2 minutes, it had activity. So it can perform the log switches immediately, or it can have a wait time. It depends on your DML activity. It depends on how many times you are changing, regardless if it is a change with commit or not commit.
But Mohit, in your real world experience, how many times do you alter system checkpoint and or do the?
I have probably done this 4 or 5 times in my last 16, 17 years. Okay, but how many times I have done alter system switch log file? Many times, many times.
And this is like wait events, they have a class, right? And maybe that class, since we're waiting on a process, maybe it's a system IO, right? Wait event.
Yeah, if your disk is, for example, this would not be, so your log file wait event is not just syncing of the logs. There is no space on, for example, your U15 is full. Where is it going to write? Right? It will have to come back and overwrite this, so there may be some wait events, not called log file wait event, but they are more considered as an IO wait event because that is having hard time. Your database, all the disks are tier 1 disk, right? Tier T1 disk. T1 is tier 1s, the fastest possible. Whereas your redo logs are T3 disks. So your database is very fast, everything is fast, except that every time you update, it is slow. Every time you insert a new record, it is slow. Every time you delete something, it is slow. But when you read, everything is fast. What does that mean? Sometimes something is happening when it is trying to write. Reading is very fast. That means my data files are very fast. My redo logs may be slow now. So you have to start looking into what are the times and what is the command that will tell you which disk which disk has more reads versus writes?
You said read versus write.
What is the operating system command that tells you which disk has more reads or writes?
I use that.
So looking at this, which disk has more writes?
SD.
SDB.
SDB reads per second 27.96 kilobytes read per second versus 145 kilobytes writes per second. So this tells me this is the most busy disk in terms of writing. Right? So this is one of the command, but there are also dictionary views. Dictionary views like read our session. Log wait, which machine it is coming from, what is the SQL ID? Every SQL has an SQL ID. How long it has been waiting? Where does that go? Log on time. When was the last log on time? Last call here, transactional basically. When was the last? So if I log in 30 minutes ago, but when was the last transactional time? It will tell me that. And how long it has been waiting? There is another one. If there is any session that is blocking this particular, so for example, I just changed the salary of Scott from 7,000 to 7,100, and now he is also trying to update the same record from 7,100 to 7,200. Unless and until I committed, he cannot make the change because I blocked his session.
I was in answer, yeah.
Right? So now it can also tell you what are the blocking sessions. This is the event number. Remember, or event name. Remember, I was just saying the signal light is a wait event, traffic is a wait event, emergency vehicle is a wait event, reroute is a wait event, log file sync wait is another event. So that will pop up here. Wait time. How many wait? So, and then seconds in wait. If you want to, what is the state of this particular session? Is it waiting or is it doing something else? It will tell you that. Service name, which service? Remember, a database has multiple services. Which service it is using? SQL trace, is the tracing on? You can enable the tracing. You can say, hey, you know what? I know Mr. Scott is always doing something, right? I want to trace his session to find out what exactly he is doing. So now I'm tracing from his laptop to the internet, to the SDA, to the data file, and then coming back. So all this tracing, the entire tracing, I see that everything is going fine, but particularly at this point, it is waiting long. So we can trace and we can get all this in here. So this is a very powerful query or very powerful dictionary, read our session, and it will tell you the information about all this for all the connected sessions.
So also you can track the SQL plan too. You can trace from.
Yeah, I think it has the SQL hash here somewhere. Do you see that here?
Download it.
No, I think it's up here somewhere.
Yeah, we just missed it. No.
It's hash graph.
Also gives you the class, whether if it's a system or it's a user.
Yeah, so if it, weight class, every weight is divided into different classes. So you have the application weight class, for example, I'm trying to think of a good example. So here, if you're driving from here to your home, think about different weights. The weights that you would get on the highway. Highway is a weight, the class, versus if you're taking a local way. Local way, how many different things can happen in a local way that has a group name that is the local. Think of that as a group name, class.
So maybe I can do that, I can join that view maybe with the system event and another view, a class.
Oh yeah,
weight,
it happens all the time.
right? I can join these 3 views to find it over.
All right, coming back, there was one thing. Oh, archive log. So where exactly our archives are going to? Okay. So here, first of all, remember I said last week or the week before, whenever we met, I said database can be in 2 different modes. The database can be no archive log mode, and the database is in archive log mode. What is no archive log mode?
It's not saving your archive logs.
Redo logs are just dying. They are just continuously overwriting each other. That is the no archive log mode. An archive log mode is where you are saying, so for example, I have the disks here, right? So we have U01, U02, U03, U04, U05, U14, and then I have U15, U16, and then U17. U18, we use that for the data dump. And U98, let's say I have U96, you have U97, and then U98, and then U99. Okay. We all know this is for the Oracle software. This is control 1, this is control 2, and then this is control 3. This is flash recovery area. Optional, but very good to have. This is where all our databases are, data files. This is redo group 1, this is redo group 2, this is redo group 3. And these are all the data pump. And then this is where, for example, I say, I want to have U98 as archive 1 destination, and I may want to duplicate this to archive 2 destination, and I may want to protect it more by adding another archive destination. And U99 is where all my backups are going to go. So here, whenever there is the data is being pushed using the log writer, it is being pushed to U15, and then U16, and then U17, right? So using this, and then now I have the checkpoint will occur, and then it will go to the next one. And at the same time, what we are doing is we are saying, hey, I want this, whenever there is a switch here, all this has to be zipped and sent to my archive log destination 1. Now, how do I know, how can I control where it is going to? So if you type in show parameter archive log, parameter archive. So I'm going to type in show parameter archive, and let's see what our archive log destination is sent to. Show parameter archive. If you start looking into this, I have log archive dest 1, and then I have log archive dest 2, and then I have log archive dest 3, and there are a bunch of these log archive destinations. So if I start looking into this, I'm actually going to see if I can type this instead of using the show parameter. Um, we all know we can get all the parameters from $v parameter, right? So I will say select name. So if I do the describe here, so what I want is describe $v parameter. I want the name and value. That's all I'm looking for. So here I will say name and value from $v parameter, where name like, where name like
Yeah, well, this-
and then order by the first one. And then here I will say column name format A36. We'll do set line size 100 pages 200. All right, I'm going to see if I can pull this information. And the
Wow.
name value column value. Here, 60. Here, I'll say let's try this. Oops, what did I do now? Oh. Okay. Order by one, I did not do it. Okay. So my first destination, I said this is where I need it to be. Second destination, nothing is there. So if there is no second destination, there is no third destination, and so on. So how many total destinations I can send this to? Okay. And each of this, every time I'm sending, each one here is archive 0. And if I say, hey, you know what, I want it to send to 97 also. So I can do that. So this would become log archive dest underscore 1. And this one will become log archive dest underscore 2. And if I say I want to send it here as well, so every time you are writing, I want it to send to 3 different locations. So if this is arc0, this one will become arc1, and this one will become arc2. So 3 archive processes are writing at the same time, sending to 3 different locations. And this location, I can say this is log archive dest underscore 3. Now, how exactly do you make these changes? So for example, if I want to send it to only one location, I will say alter system set log archive dest underscore 1 equal to
The location.
okay, and then you have to use the word location. If it is a remote location, if it is a local location, so here I will say location. Location is equal to, and then you give the location. So here I will say go to U98, destination call U98, and your database name. Your database name is batch 51, and then there is a location called archive. Small, I think we have small archive or capital archive. So since you open it here, you are going to close it here. You execute this. So this is our first location. Let's say I want to do the same thing for my second location. So then I will execute another one. Alter system set log underscore archive underscore dest underscore 2 is equal to from here to here, the new location that you want to add. That would be location is equal to U97 batch 51 archive. So now it will open up two locations. Every time there is a lock switch that occurs, right? It will open up two locations. It will write to the second location. If I want to have a third location, SQL alter system set log underscore archive underscore dest underscore 3 is equal to location is equal to U96 batch 51 archive. Now this time, if there are three disks in here, so this is the first disk, this is the second disk, and this is the third disk. They are all writing in here. If any of the one is failed, for example, archive disk 2, U97 is failed, I still have the copies in U98 and U96. Very unlikely, but can happen. The main one, which is U98, fails, I still have a copy here. Now, if I define three of these, right? Out of these three, are all these three mandatory to be copied all the time?
Yes, if you did this, yes.
No. The minimum succeed for archive is always 1. This is by default. Now, can you change this to 3? Yes, you can. If you change it, then the minimum succeed out of 10 locations that you identified is always 3. So how many more archives that we can write? Now, up to the 10G databases, up to 10G, you have archive 0 all the way 9. That means you have 10 locations to play around. Starting from 11G, they said arc 0 all the way up to 9. And then it will start from A all the way up to Z. So 10 here plus 26 here, a total of 36 locations that you can add.
Could you repeat that again for how many locations should we have? Just to summarize.
Minimum what?
Minimum is always 1. Minimum succeed, there is a parameter called minimum succeed or something like that. I can't remember. I don't remember exactly. But you can always find out. By default, it is 1. So that means if you have multiple locations in here where you executed these 3 locations, right? Now, if I say 1, 2, 3, if minimum succeed is 1, any of these 3, if it is able to write, it is happy. If it is not able to reach any of these 3, database hangs. Production is down now. Okay. So I have never seen anyone changing the minimum to 2 or 3. They usually just say 1 is happy, right? But this is not very uncommon to have at least 2, if not 3. Now, let's say they are all in the same data center. This is all in the same Chicago data center, right? If the Chicago data center is down, all 3 archives are down. Is that right? We can have a remote location. The remote location, then we can say alter system set log underscore archive underscore dest underscore 4 is equal to, instead of the location, we use service. Service is equal to New York. And how does it know where to send this in the New York? It uses that from tnsnames.org. In the tnsnames.org, the way we have an entry for Chicago, we have an entry for New York. And we will learn this one in our data guard class. Data guard is the protection of the physical hardware failure. For example, entire database is in water under the Chicago building. Then it's a disaster. And then we will use something like this to send all our changes to not here, but to somewhere else. So here, a new archive will start, and then it will send it to New York data center.
You have to specify where exactly on that server, the location.
We will cover all that in our data guard class. But basically, anytime, so the key to remember here is, if it is a location, that means it's a local mount, right? If it is a service, that means it's a remote location.
So this is copying your redos into the archive, and you're setting the system to copying into 3 different archive disk spaces essentially, and then that is sending it to a disk space in a different
On a different,
on a different server,
Exactly.
completely different place. Now, but you said that there's another parameter that would set it that by default it would only do 1. So if you did all 4 of these and only
minimum succeed is still 1.
yeah, so minimum
It could be any of the local, or it could be remote.
So yeah, so you would have to you could do 1 for the local, but you would have to have another one for service, would you not?
No. Minimum succeed is where are the different locations it is sending to. It doesn't matter if it is a local, if it is to the tape, or if it is to a remote location. It does not matter. As long as it has a copy of an archive somewhere, it can find it. That's all it is looking for.
Right, but if there was a tragedy, even if you did set that service, if there was a tragedy, there is a chance where it just kept saving only on your own server, not on the.
Yes, so that's why the data guard, you will have to put the data guard in place.
Oh, okay.
This is only defining the local, and it can still have a tragedy where, everything here is down, so it's not even able to send it.
Oh,
So that's the reason that the next step to protect the entire data center is the data guard.
Was the scenario that, I'm thinking of the hard disk. I mean, if we set multiple destinations to save those archive logs, if I have that one sector of the hard drive fails, then I have different location, on my local server. But I mean, what's the scenario that?
That is where we are going to learn in ASM, automatic storage management. So what happens if the disk fail, and then we still want to not fail over to a data center, but we want our disk to have its own balancing. We will learn in ASM.
So I have a few questions. One of them being, why is it that if the archive goes down, then
It's not archive go down. Archive will never go down. It's the location that can go down.
Yeah. So if the location goes down, but the redo log, but let's just say the customer still has the redo log. So if the redo
The
log,
redo logs also has to flush.
oh,
Remember, the redo logs are writing. It is done. It is full. Then it will go to the next one. It is still writing. It is full. It will go to the next one. And then when this one is written, all 3 are written, right? So you have this one that is started with blah, 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 and then perform a log switch. Then it will start writing blah, 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 and then it is full. And then it will start writing here. And at this point, when it is all full, where should it go? It will go back here. Now it is still waiting to flush this to the archive.
oh,
My archive is missing. So now this will not let it overwrite. So now my customers who are trying to get here, they're keep pinging, right? It's nothing. It's not letting it go down. It is not letting overwrite it. So at this time, it will have nothing else but to wait.
okay. And my second question is, let's just say you did alter set and if you only have 3, but in this scenario, you only have 3, you wouldn't practically use all three of them, would you?
You use all three of them.
No, I mean,
To restore, let's say if anything breaks down, whichever closer to me, I only need a copy from that.
okay, so if you are using it, then what happens when those are full?
When they are full,
Yeah.
then it is still trying to write and it is not letting it write. So now again, the users are waiting.
So what is?
So we need to have some kind of a retention policy where we say, from here to here, if it is 70% full, remove the last 30% area.
Mhm.
Or you say, I'm going to design this to have 30 days of archives, but every 10 days, I'm going to remove the previous old ones. So you always have some room.
Sure.
So we will cover that in RMAN. There is an RMAN retention parameter that will cover that. So we can keep the retention window of 7 days, or we can say redundancy of backups to 1 or 2. That means if 2 backups, the last 2 backups are good, remove everything else.
But normally, if you literally didn't do this and archive,
Archives are full.
if one archive got full, normally it would switch to archive 2, unless you did this.
No. There is no switching. It is continuous writing.
You just look like all
It
three
is
of them are
continuous writing to all 3
If you did this.
if we do this.
But if you didn't, would it be continuously writing in one and then go into the next one?
No, because that's not how it works. The redo is in a circular fashion, not the archives.
Okay.
Unless you manually come back and you say, let's say this one is full, right? So you only have this location. No remote location, only one local location. But I have 3 disks in here, U98, U97, and U96. So my first one, U98, when it is about full, I will come back and re-execute this. Instead of this, I will say U97. Then it will start writing to U97. When U97 is getting full, you come back and you say, you execute this alter system again, and you say U96.
Okay.
But the problem with that is if you're on U96 and you've done it like 2 or 3 times and U96 goes down, now you don't have anything
Yes.
to the last.
So that's why we want to have redundancy on everything. So in our advanced class, the main top focus that we are going to have is redundancy. How we can avoid a single point of failure. SPOF, how we can avoid a single point of failure. For that, we need to have the disk redundancy on the disk redundancy. We need to have the hardware redundancy. We need to have the archive redundancy. We need to have the listener redundancy. We need to have the instance redundancy. All this will come into the picture. Basically, we are saying we are doing everything to avoid a single point of failure. That even includes the entire data center. If anything happens in the entire data center, where my databases, my redo logs, my control files, my archives, everything is there, how can we bring up the database on its foot from some other data center? That's what the data guard is.
And I understand that that's where the data guard is. I guess that my only question is you could have just set a parameter that makes it where it will do, let's say, one of the 3, as long as it succeeds one of the 3, and it would automatically do one off-site location.
Yeah, so you can, with the data guard, what you can do is you have the local, and then you have the remote location as well.
Okay, so that's okay.
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm gathering, it's like, it's always just gonna write one singular copy to the archive, right? But the redundancy for that is the fact that there's 3 sets of redo logs, so it'll try over and over again, and then also on top of it, the data guard will be up as well.
Correct. So the protection of the redo logs are redo log members. The protection for archives is multiple locations. The protection for the data center is the data guard using the remote, the service equal to option, and so on. But now everything is good, listener is down. What do? This is where the rack will come into the picture. Everything is all good, but the instance is down. What do? Rack comes into the picture. Everything is okay, but one of the disks is failed. This is where the ASM will come into the picture. Okay. So I'm going to perform, let's find out how many redo logs and where the redo logs are going. So at this point, it looks like all my redo logs are going to only one location. Right? This is the location. So I'm going to go in here, CD to this location. And if I do ls minus LTR, there are so many archives. Look at the last archive is 244. Right? If I go back and look into this query here, as per this query, my last archive, which is active, which is 245, right? So 245 is current. That means it has not been archived yet. This is archived, this is archived. Archived, yes. 243, is it archived? Yes. 244, is it archived? Yes. 245, is it archived? Not yet. So I'm going to perform a log switch here. Okay, alter system switch log file. Now, as soon as I perform a log file, and if I watch this, for example, if I say ls minus or ls minus LTR wrap or tail minus 10. So look at this, last 244. So I'm going to watch minus n3 every 3 seconds or every 2 seconds. ls minus LTR wrap or tail minus 5, for example. Last 5 is 244. So every 2 seconds it is refreshing this. I'm going to perform a log switch. Will I get 245? Yeah. Will I get 246? Yes. This is the operating system command, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 log switches. 248, 249, 250, 251. There we go. So that means that I am, so here I'm going to actually come back and I will do 2 things here. ls minus LTR, wc minus L, and I will say ls minus LTR, tail minus 5. So total of archives, how many do we have? 3022. And if I actually come back here and I will actually do this, present working directory, show me present working directory, and show me present working directory with the disk usage. So my present working directory is showing me that my disk usage, it is showing me 42 gig. Actually, instead of SH, I will just use S or SM maybe. Yeah, megabytes. Okay. So now I have this. I'm going to perform this now. And this should increase by another 20 megabytes because each of the redo log is about 20 megabytes. Or maybe it is. So now I see 252. Go here. Right? Is this increasing? The total number of sizes here. Now I'm going to keep adding more. I have these. I think this is somehow is still not calculating because each of this is about, oh, this is 1 kilobyte. 1 kilobyte, okay. Because there are no changes. Actually, what we can do is we can actually double this so that each 20 megabytes is being added. Because we are forcing it, it's not even completing its 20 megabytes, right? It's not filling everything, we keep switching. So I will actually say insert into mm100.d1, select star from mm100.d1. That way it will occupy all of these. 258. Is So now if we start looking into this, 16 megabytes, and here the numbers are changing.
Mm.
Sorry, you had some question.
So, like, for example, you talk about retention policy, which says that we need to retain the last 30 days of like archive log, or like 30 days, that's how long the archive log lasts. One of the things I was gonna ask is like, suppose a situation like this arises where, you know, something is going on where a user might not even understand what they're doing, but you're constantly just adding more and more log files to the point where it's like, does it like hit the retention policy earlier than
Yeah,
it should?
of course, that's why there is always a buffer that they keep. So for example, if I know, and if you are a smart DBA, then this is what you should do, because the Unix admins, they don't care, the storage admin, they don't care. They will just give you whatever space that you ask for. So for example, you know, in 7 days, I need 700 megabytes, for example. In 30 days, I need 3 terabytes or 3 gigabytes. So if your retention is to keep at least 300 gigabytes available, are you actually going to ask them 300?
No.
I will always have some buffer,
Maybe
right?
10%.
So even if the ratio is double for next 30 days, maybe your company has sent out a coupon or something. Now all of a sudden you have a bunch of new transactions that are coming in. What do? So even if there is a ad hoc request that can be done, you can say, hey, can you increase the U98 from 10 gigabytes to 20 gigabytes? And then you can remove the space after once we are down with this new promotion. Or you can be smart and from the day one, you can say, hey, you know what, I need 30 gigs, but I am going to ask for 60 gigs. So I'm on the safe side now. So even if there are a lot of things that are going on, you still have some room so that if it is growing, you still have about half of the space left. You know, from the last 7 days, it is going to fill up in the next 7 days. You still have time. You talk to them, you say, hey, you know what, I think it's going to grow increasingly fast. So let's add some more disk space.
So we should have some statistics about those utilization growth,
Oh, of course.
and then
If you are a good DBA, you will always do capacity planning for next 3 years. Next 3 years, because hardware refreshes are usually done in 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So, you know, you don't want to build a system and next month you see, oh, I need some more changes. Next month after that, oh, I need some more changes. You want to start looking into the growth pattern of your company, the application, and then you have to design, you have to scale it in a way that you are covered for at least next 2-3 years.
so maybe you do it on a quarter basis and annual basis, and you see statistics from the past 3 years.
Yeah,
and
and there are a lot of Oracle documents that are there and Oracle procedures that are there that will help you get the utilization of table space, utilization on CPU, utilization on memory, and all that. So we are at 282 now, right? 282, that means 283 is still in the memory here. So if I do this, 283 is probably the current one now. Is not archived yet. Everything else is an archive yet. Now, if I want to keep adding this into another disk, okay. So let's see if we can add another disk here. So right now our present working directory is this. So instead of this, first of all, I'm going to see my present working directory. So df minus h u9. So how many U90? I have U96, U97, U98, and U99. So I want to go into U98. So let's see U98. So cd U98, CD batch 51. Now there is no batch 51 directory, so I'm going to make a directory for batch 51, CD to batch 51. And if I do ls, there is nothing, so I'm going to make archive directory now. So mkdir archive. So CD to archive, my present working directory is this. Okay. Now I'm going to use the same command in here as well. Watch -n2 see how I have more archives available here but not here, right? Here at this point I will say alter system set log archive test_2 equal to location equal to this location U98. Okay, so it says this system alter. So that means every time there is a lock switch that is going to happen, it is going to write that into two different locations now. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to say insert into mm100.e1, select the start from mm100.e1. Now, starting from 282, starting from 283, it should also write here. Okay. So,
But the sequence will be different.
no, sequence is same.
Sequence is-
It's the exact same copy. So up to 282 we have here. Starting from 283 we will have here and we will have here. Oh, I think I should do 283. Disk space, I think I should, hold on a second. This should be 98.
Yeah, right now.
There you go. So 283, 284, yeah, 285. And it is also giving me the disk space by 16 megabytes. Now, if I have another location, which is U96, can I do the same thing again? I will say alter system set log archive -2 equal to location U96 now with the same path. And I have to make sure that the directory exists. If the directory does not exist, we use the mkdir.
Now, when you say that it's still in the case where you didn't set the parameter of over one of them has to succeed. When you say it has to it's succeeding, it means that it will copy to all of them, but just in case it doesn't. So what is the chances it doesn't succeed? And is that just by
If the network breakdown, if the disk disappears, mechanical failure, server is not up, the disk cage is not up, the bad disk, any of this could be a factor.
Sure, but for the most part, if you set 3 different locations, it's going to copy those 3 different locations for the
Yes.
most part. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just
That's what you have instructed it to do.
Sure.
System doesn't have its own brain, right? It
Right.
doesn't have its own free will. You are instructing it to do, and it is doing it. If it is not available, then it will throw an error somewhere,
Sure.
but it is still succeeding.
Okay, I wanted to be sure that, some things are in milliseconds, they're succeeding in one and not succeeding in the other. It's
It will
milliseconds,
try to catch up.
but it will, okay,
Yeah. So you are talking about the throughput.
yeah,
So for example, you have in local, you have a throughput of 10 gigabit per second, whereas local, remote, you don't have that. You have maybe 100 megabits per second or something. So there is a gap now, but the gap is resolved automatically.
okay. It's not just gonna say, it succeeded here, let's just not. do that.
That's why the minimum succeed is only one,
Right,
right? So your transaction, your users are not waiting because something is succeeded and it is okay. And the redo logs can be overwritten and so on. Why? Because the Oracle knows that if it needs to copy, it has a location where it needs to copy. So that is called a file client and file server. Fetching archive logs client, fetching archive logs server. So something will become a server, something will become a client.
sure.
So a server is where the archive logs are already copied. The client is the storage where it is requesting it from. I was going to show you. Oh yeah. So if I go back in here, there is one more query which is very helpful, especially for the troubleshooting. And when you have time, I really want you to go ahead and start looking into each of these queries that I have written over the time. So there is one query. Which one is that? Yeah, this one. So here, number 16. Number 16 will tell you in last 24 hours how many log switches that has happened. Look at this. Hour 0, 4. Right? So this is the first time when I had written this. So hour 0, it is 4 archives. Hour 2 has this. Hour 2 is this. So if we start looking into this of last 7 days, and each of this is presenting the last 24 hours, each row. If I start looking into this, how many total archives has happened in last 7 days? Out of this, the most slowest day is this, and the most the highest day is 110. And the busiest hour that they have is hour 17. So hour 17 is they may have some jobs that are writing, copying the data, updating, inserting, deleting, something that's are generating the real logs. Right? And here is most probably, so this is Friday, somehow it is not nothing performed, maybe it was a holiday or something. So this is if you have a Toad or SQL developer. But if I do not have it, can I run the same thing from the Putty? Let's see.
So SQL developer can get that information in graphs and whatnot.
Graphical format, that is correct. Rows and columns. So let's see, our database is busy. What is the database? Which day was busy the most? Here you go. In last 7 days, it looks like this was the busiest hour, Thursday, at in between 1 p.m. in between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. It looks like somebody got crazy. Right? 175 logs in 1 hour? That means it's a very busy time.
I know I was at work.
Well, at least we got something in here, right? So if you start looking into any other database, for example, your database, right? So let's see which is the most busiest hour that you did in your database. You have SYDB, right? So what is it called?
SYD.
SYDB. Okay. So first, maybe I will just create a file called art.sql. It is easier for me to execute from there, right? Go to the insert mode, paste. Okay. Now I will just type in art. So hour 17, so 5 to 6 p.m. on October 12th is where you spend more time doing something. Does that sound right? Somewhere around
Working on that Kent TBS table space.
Yeah. So any other database you have, what is the other one that we said? We have, which one, Nick?
Yeah, mine never worked.
We'll see.
We'll figure out.
Oh,
You're busy.
3 p.m. So 3 p.m. right? Hour 15. So 3 p.m. on Friday. This is right after Juma. I did something. Okay. Let's see if my other batch, the new batch 52. And this is a very helpful one, especially when you are troubleshooting. Somebody calls you at 4 a.m. in the morning and say, hey, database is really slow. Can you look at it? Yeah, I can look at it and I see that every day you have 4 lock switches in 1 hour, you have 4,000 lock switches in this hour. So yeah, it is going to be slow. So stop, whatever you are doing, stop doing it.
These pre-written queries, to check the utilization and performance, I'm sure that some of those companies that, a DBA can be working for, they have their own scripts.
Oh yeah, every DBA has their own set of scripts, every DBA.
So are you allowed to use, maybe it depends on the company, do they maybe ask, hey, do not use your own, use ours, right? The scripts, or?
They don't care, I mean, you are professional, you do whatever you want. Right? But sometimes they may restrict you to insert your own flash drive on your company's laptop. So at this point, what do? So majority of the companies, they will allow the incoming email. So from your Gmail, let's say you send to your company's email, right? A query. And from there, then once you have that in your inbox, you can copy and paste it, and then you can slowly start getting. Don't send like 4,000 emails in a day, right? Maybe 3, 4, and then that's how it start collecting.
Do you think they allow you to use, example, if I have, let's say, my AWS and I store all of my scripts and all that, I needed to query, can I, during the work environment, log into my own server from their laptop?
It depends. If your company, most likely, if your company is something which has public money, they have a lot of restrictions. For example, if you work for Bank of America, it's a publicly traded company, they will have a lot. Versus if you work for a different company where they don't care, like e-commerce company, right? So they may allow you to do this. So it depends on company policy. And then some companies, they will allow you to remote desktop. And some companies, they say, no, you cannot do that. But this query is definitely helpful to look into the load of the database in terms of DMLs, right? In terms of reads, then you use the Ash report, AWR report, and so on.
Mostly we still, we use the AWR report and the ASH report, also to tell, what is the wait time.
Definitely. This is our database. Now remember the reason why we have only 7 days. I thought we should have more than 7 days. It's okay.
This is batch 52.
This is batch 51. Remember somebody got really angry at database? Okay. So I think we should stop here today. Tomorrow we are going to talk more about a few more things about what we are talking about. After that, we will look into the Oracle recommendation on what you do and what is needed and what is the design that you should follow for backups. For backups, we are going to use a tool called RMAN, which is called the Recovery Manager. Using the Recovery Manager, you can back up a control file, you can back up SP file, you can back up data files, you can back up table spaces, all these different variations we can do the incremental backups, cumulative, full backups, and so on.
What about the flashback? I was reading that the flashback, it's faster to recover a database if you have it right.
Yeah.
Versus
Flashback is basically every time the redos are generating, it is also making a copy of that into the flash recovery area, and then the extension is .fr. Okay, and then it has a technology where it does not have to shut down the database. It can basically rewind the database to a certain particular point.
So if you travel back in time in certain,
Yeah. So, I usually don't put a lot of efforts into the flash recovery area because I know that the users, once they know all these backups, restore and everything, you can do your self-study on flash recovery area. Basically, you just have to enable the flashback on.
Right.
So once you enable the flashback on, you describe retention, how much retention I should keep. For example, I think our flashback is on show parameter recovery. Right now, my flashback is designed to go here, and right now for this our small database, I have designed to keep only the last 8 gig of database. Instead of last 8 gig, I can say, hey, keep last 10 terabytes of database. As long as you have enough space in here, you can do that. And then there are a few other things that you can do. So you should issue parameter recovery will tell you that. And $V flashback, I think describe $V flashback. Or, oh, maybe it's describe $V database. Describe $V database. I think this will tell you if the flashback is on. Yeah. So if the flashback is on /flashback from $V database, if it is on or no. So if I want to turn it on, I think you have to shut down the database, bring it to mount state, and then do the flashback. Alter database set flashback. Hold on, what is that command? Alter database. I think I have the page of flashback as well. Yeah, it needs, the database has to be in mount mode. So alter database flashback on. Oh, the 19C maybe it doesn't require. So now if I say alter flashback on from or also right now it's on.
Okay, so it's in open mode, so we don't have to switch in the 19.
Yeah, but I was thinking about the older versions. In older versions, you have to take the database down, bring it up in a mount mode, and then make it on. But with the 19C, and so we actually saw that it can be done while the database is
We're
on.
actually working on it. So, what you, take the database down and start in the mount mode, that's when we work with RMAN, right? We have to be in the mount mode.
No,
And do that.
RMAN can be. So there is something called a cold backup and hot backup. So we'll talk about that. RMAN is completely invisible to the end users.
Right, you can do that.
Yes, sir. Okay, inshallah, I will see you all tomorrow.
Now you have